She pushed me away and said, "Don't touch me tonight." So I said, "Not ever," and walked out at dawn. No warning. No second chances. My wife's a divorce attorney who destroys husbands for a living. She just never expected to wake up and find hers already gone. What I discovered about her hidden life. She should have been more careful about who she married. My name is Daniel Simmons. I'm 45 years old, and I spent 20 years in military intelligence before retiring to build a security consulting firm. I learned how to read people, how to spot patterns others miss, how to document evidence, and build airtight cases. Turns out those skills work just as well in a dying marriage as they do in the field. Victoria and I have been married for 23 years. She's a family law attorney, one of the best in Chicago, specializing in high-stakes divorces. The irony wasn't lost on me later. She'd build a career helping women dismantle marriages and walk away with everything. I just never thought she'd practice on ours. That last night started like 100 others. I came home around 7, made dinner while she worked late in her home office. When she finally emerged at 9:30, I'd already eaten, but kept her plate warm. She looked at it like I'd done something wrong. "I ate at the office," Victoria said, her voice flat and distant. I nodded, covering the food with foil. "Long day." She didn't answer, just poured herself wine and scrolled through her phone. I watched her for a moment, this woman I'd loved since we were kids, and saw nothing familiar looking back. Her hair was different lately, style sharper. Her clothes more expensive. Everything about her seemed designed to create distance. We went to bed in silence. That wasn't unusual anymore. What was unusual was what happened when I reached for her. A simple gesture, my hand on her shoulder. Victoria pushed my hand away, not gently. There was force behind it, frustration, maybe even disgust. She turned to face me in the darkness, and I could see her expression clearly in the moonlight coming through the window. "Don't touch me tonight, Daniel." Her voice was cold, measured, final. Something shifted in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd felt that already 1,000 times over the past 3 years. This was different. This was clarity. I sat up slowly, looked at her for a long moment. "Not ever," I said quietly. She blinked, confused. "What?" "You heard me. Not ever. I'm done." Victoria scoffed, rolling back over. "You're being dramatic. Go to sleep." But I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing even out, watching the ceiling fan spin slowly above us. By 3 a.m., I made every decision I needed to make. By 4, I was in the kitchen, packing a single bag with essentials. By 5, I was dressed and standing at the door. I didn't leave a note. Didn't take anything that could be argued over later. Just my documents, my laptop, and the clothes on my back. The wedding ring went in the drawer next to receipts she never looked at, insurance papers she never read, documents she signed without question because she trusted me to handle the boring details. That trust was about to become her biggest mistake. I walked out at dawn while she still slept, pulled out of the driveway in my car, the one in my name alone, and drove to a motel 30 miles outside the city. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt free for the first time in years. What Victoria didn't know, couldn't know yet, was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 11 months. Every document signed, every asset protected, every conversation recorded. She taught me well over the years, listening to her strategize her clients' divorces over dinner. She just never realized I was taking notes. The sun was rising as I checked into the motel. My phone was off. My accounts were secured. My future was finally my own. Let her wake up to an empty bed. Let her wonder where I went. Let her make her calls and spin her stories. By the time she figured out what happened, it would be far too late to stop it. The motel coffee tasted like regret and burnt rubber, but I drank it anyway. Sitting on the edge of a bed that wasn't mine, in a room that smelled like industrial cleaner and other people's problems, I finally allowed myself to think clearly. Victoria would be waking up soon. Maybe she already had. I imagined her reaching across the bed, finding empty space, assuming I'd gotten up early for a run or to make breakfast like I always did. It would take her a while to notice my clothes were gone, my laptop missing, the drawer where I kept important documents emptied. My phone sat face down on the nightstand. I turned it back on an hour ago, but left it on silent. 23 missed calls already. 15 texts. I didn't need to read them to know what they said. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Call me now." Classic Victoria. Not worried about me. Worried about the disruption to her routine. I opened my laptop and logged into the secure portal I'd been building for months. Everything was there, organized, documented, ready. But before I reviewed my own preparations, I needed to check something that had been bothering me for weeks. 3 months ago, I'd noticed a discrepancy in our tax documents. Nothing major, just a line item that didn't match our joint accounts. Victoria handled most of our personal finances, claimed it was easier since she dealt with legal paperwork all day. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. I'd spent the last 12 weeks quietly digging, using skills the military had taught me about following paper trails. What I found was a separate account at a different bank. An account Victoria had opened 4 years ago in her name only. An account she'd been steadily funding from her bonuses and partnership distributions. $147,000. Hidden. Prepared. Insurance. She'd been planning her exit long before I started planning mine. I stared at the account statements I'd obtained through less than legal means, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, just clarity. She'd been methodically preparing to leave me while I cooked her dinners and waited up for her and believed her lies about late meetings. The irony was almost funny. We'd both been preparing to abandon ship, both gathering supplies and plotting escape routes. But I'd been more thorough. My phone buzzed. Victoria again. This time she'd left a voicemail. I debated listening, then figured why not. Might as well know what story she was telling herself. Her voice came through, sharp and irritated. Daniel, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but it's not cute. You need to come home. We have the Henderson meeting tomorrow, and I need you to review the security assessment for their estate. Call me back. Not where are you? Are you okay? What's wrong? Just logistics. Business. The meeting she needed me for. I deleted the voicemail and pulled up the file marked evidence. Inside were 11 months of documentation. Not just financial records, but something more damaging. Something I'd started recording after a conversation with Jake, my best friend, who'd pulled me aside 6 months ago and told me something that changed everything. Victoria had tried to seduce him at the company Christmas party 2 years ago. Jake hadn't told me at first, wanting to protect me, hoping it was just drunken stupidity she'd regret. But when he saw how cold things had gotten between us, how she treated me like furniture instead of a husband, he couldn't stay quiet anymore. I'd started recording after that. Not illegally, not with hidden cameras, but simply documenting my own experiences in my own home. Video journals, essentially. Me talking to a camera in my office about what happened each day. Her dismissals. Her coldness. The nights she pushed me away. The moments she spoke to me with contempt. 27 recordings in total. Each one time-stamped. Each one showing a man slowly realizing his marriage was already over. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Emily, our daughter. Dad, Mom says you left for a business trip without telling her. She seems upset. Everything okay? So that's the story Victoria was spinning. A business trip. Unannounced. Inconsiderate. I typed back carefully. Everything's fine, sweetie. Just needed some space to think. How are your classes? Deflect. Protect. Let Victoria manage her narrative for now. Emily didn't need to be in the middle of this yet. But she would be eventually. They all would be. I closed the laptop and looked around the small motel room. This wasn't where I'd stay long-term, just a waypoint. Tomorrow I'd move to something more permanent. Somewhere Victoria couldn't easily find me. I had work to do. Documents to file. Lawyers to meet. A strategy to execute. Victoria thought she was the expert at divorce. She'd handled hundreds of cases, dismantled dozens of marriages, taught countless women how to protect themselves financially. But she'd never faced an opponent who'd spent 20 years in intelligence operations. She was about to learn the difference. The law firm of Garrison and Associates occupied the 14th floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago. I'd chosen them carefully, 3 months of research before I made the first call. Martin Garrison was known for 2 things, discretion and winning. He was waiting when I arrived, mid-50s, gray hair, suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. We shook hands, and he gestured to a chair across from his desk. Mr. Simmons, Garrison said, opening a folder. I've reviewed the preliminary documents you sent. Quite thorough. 20 years in military intelligence teaches you to document everything. He smiled slightly. Your wife is Victoria Simmons, partner at Whitfield & Ross, family law specialist. You know her. Of her. She's formidable in court. Aggressive. Very protective of her clients' interests. He paused. This won't be a simple dissolution. I'm not looking for simple. I'm looking for complete. Garrison pulled out the financial documents I provided. The hidden account in her name. $147,000. You obtained these statements how? Does it matter? It might, depending on how she responds. But let's set that aside. You've also documented systematic asset protection over the past 11 months. Property transfers, account separations, beneficiary changes. All signed by her. Everyone. She never read them, just signed where I asked. And you have proof she signed without reading? I pulled out my phone, showed him a video. Victoria at the kitchen counter, coffee in one hand, pen in the other, signing 3 documents while scrolling through her phone, never looking down at the papers. Is that your kitchen? Garrison asked. Yes. I was standing right there with the camera visible. No hidden surveillance. No deception. She just didn't care enough to pay attention. Garrison leaned back. Mr. Simmons, I need to ask. What's your endgame here? Asset protection? Full separation? Revenge? Survival? I said. Victoria's been preparing to leave me for years. That account proves it. I just got started first. I want what's mine protected, my business secured, and I want to walk away with my dignity intact. What about your daughter? Emily's 19, studying in London. She's an adult. I won't use her as leverage, and I won't let Victoria use her either. Garrison made notes. The attempted seduction of your friend Jake Patterson. You have his statement. Signed and notarized. He's willing to testify if needed. And these video journals. 27 recordings of you documenting the deterioration of your marriage. That's unusual. Is it admissible? Possibly. They're recordings of you in your own home, discussing your own experiences. No secret surveillance of her. But a judge might view them as calculated. They're calculated, I said. Everything I've done has been calculated. Victoria taught me that. She tells her clients to document everything, to protect themselves, to plan ahead. I learned from the best. Garrison closed the folder. I'll be direct, Mr. Simmons. Your wife will come at this hard. She knows the system, knows the judges, knows how to paint narratives. We need to be prepared for her to claim emotional abuse, financial control, maybe even that you're unstable. Let her try. I have documentation that says otherwise. Good. Because the moment she realizes you're serious, she'll go nuclear. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it. Victoria again, now up to 37 missed calls. That her? Garrison asked. Yes. Don't answer. Not yet. Let her anxiety build. Let her wonder what you're doing, who you're talking to. The longer she's in the dark, the more mistakes she'll make. I nodded, turning the phone face down. Garrison stood, extending his hand. I'll file the preliminary paperwork this afternoon. Separation of assets, temporary restraining orders on joint accounts, notification of intent. She'll be served tomorrow at her office. Tomorrow. Fast execution. She won't have time to prepare a counter strategy. By the time she realizes what's happening, we'll have already secured your position. I shook his hand. Thank you. One more thing, Garrison said. Brace yourself. When she gets served, when she realizes you've been planning this, she's going to be furious. Women like your wife, high-powered attorneys who are used to controlling everything, they don't handle losing control well. I'm counting on it, I said. Angry people make mistakes. Walking out of that office, I felt something shift. This wasn't just about leaving Victoria. This was about reclaiming everything she'd slowly taken from me. My dignity, my peace, my future. She wanted a war. She was about to get one from someone who'd been trained for combat. I was back at the motel, reviewing documents on my laptop when my phone rang. Emily. I've been expecting this call, but dreading it anyway. Hey, sweetheart. I answered, keeping my voice steady. Dad, what's going on? Emily's voice was tight with worry. Mom called me 3 times today. She says you left, that you won't answer her calls, that she doesn't know where you are. I closed my eyes, choosing my words carefully. Your mother and I are having some problems. I needed space to think. Problems? Dad, you guys have been married forever. What kind of problems? Adult problems, Em. Nothing you need to worry about. Don't do that, she said, frustration creeping in. Don't treat me like I'm 12. I'm 19. If you and Mom are separating, I deserve to know why. She was right. Emily wasn't a child anymore. But she also didn't need to be dragged into the middle of this. Not yet. Your mother and I have been growing apart for a long time. I said carefully. She's been focused on her career. I've been focused on mine. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and started being roommates. Then we stopped being even that. So you just left? Without talking to her? I tried talking. For years. She stopped listening a long time ago. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, she said, "You're having some kind of breakdown. That you're not yourself." There it was. Victoria's narrative, already being deployed. Paint me as unstable, as irrational, as someone who couldn't handle life, and just snapped. "Do I sound like I'm having a breakdown?" I asked. "No," Emily admitted. "You sound calm. Really calm, actually, which is almost scarier." "I'm not breaking down, sweetheart. I'm breaking free. There's a difference. Mom said you took important documents, that you emptied drawers, that you're hiding something. I took my personal documents, my passport, my financial records, my business files, things that belong to me. She makes it sound like you stole something." "I'm sure she does." Another pause. "Dad, are you guys getting divorced?" The question hung in the air between us. This was the moment. I could deflect again, buy more time, let Emily stay in the dark a little longer. Or I could give her the truth. "Probably," I said. "Yes." I heard her breath catch. God, I didn't think. I mean, I knew things weren't great, but we're good at pretending, your mother and I. We've been pretending for a long time. "Does she know that you want a divorce?" "She will soon." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm handling things legally and properly. She'll be informed through the appropriate channels." "You're serving her papers?" Emily's voice rose. "Dad, you can't just ambush her like that. Your mother is a divorce attorney. She knows exactly how this works. She's done it to dozens of husbands. She won't be surprised by the process. But she'll be surprised at you doing it." "Good. She should be. Maybe she'll finally understand what it feels like to be dismissed and ignored." "That's not fair, Dad." "Fair?" I felt anger rise for the first time. "You want to talk about fair? Your mother has been emotionally checked out of our marriage for 3 years. She treats me like I'm an inconvenience, like I'm in her way. She stopped touching me, stopped talking to me about anything that matters, stopped seeing me as a person. But I'm supposed to be fair." Silence. Then Emily said quietly, "I didn't know it was that bad. That's because we didn't want you to know. We kept it away from you. Let you focus on school, on your life in London. But yeah, Em, it's been that bad. What do you want me to do?" "Nothing," I said firmly. "This is between your mother and me. You don't take sides. You don't get involved. You're our daughter, and we both love you. That doesn't change no matter what happens between us. She's going to ask me things. Where you are, what you said. Then tell her the truth. Tell her I said we're having problems, and I needed space. Don't lie for me, and don't lie for her. Just be honest." "Okay," Emily said softly. "Then, Dad, are you going to be okay?" "Yeah, sweetheart. I'm going to be fine. Better than fine, actually." After we hung up, I sat in the darkening motel room and felt the weight of that conversation. Emily deserved better than parents who couldn't make it work. But she also deserved the truth. I was having coffee 3 blocks from Victoria's office when Garrison texted. "Done. 10:47 a.m. The process server had just handed Victoria her divorce papers in front of her colleagues. I imagined her face, the shock turning to rage, her carefully maintained control shattering publicly. My phone buzzed. Victoria's name. I let it ring through. Then immediately another call. Then another. 6 calls in 4 minutes. The text started. "You served me at work." At work. Everyone saw. My partner saw. "How dare you humiliate me like this? Call me. Now." I sipped my coffee and waited. The humiliation was intentional. Victoria had always said serving papers at work created pressure for quick settlements. I'd learned from the best. My phone rang again. Brad Thompson, her law partner, the one she'd been having emotional dinners with, laughing about how boring I was. I answered. "Daniel Simmons." "Daniel, it's Brad Thompson. Victoria just received some documents, and she's quite upset. Perhaps we could discuss this rationally." "There's no misunderstanding, Brad. Those documents are clear. Asset separation, restraining orders, intent to dissolve the marriage. Serving her at work was unnecessarily cruel. Was it? She served dozens of men at their workplaces. She told me it was strategic. I learned that from her." Silence. Then Brad's voice hardened. "Victoria has resources, connections throughout Chicago's legal system. You're making a mistake." I let the word hang. Why would her law partner be threatening me personally? Unless there's something more going on between you two. I don't know what you're insinuating. Don't you? I have documentation, Brad. Emails. 17 dinner receipts over 14 months. All on the firm's expense account. That's a lot of business dinners. The silence stretched. Ask Victoria if I'm the bluffing type. I said. 20 years in military intelligence taught me to gather evidence before making claims. I hung up. My phone exploded with Victoria's texts. You have no idea what you've done. I will destroy you in court. I'll make sure Emily knows what kind of man you really are. That last threat crossed a line. Using our daughter as a weapon. I typed one response. See you in court. Then I blocked her number. All communication through attorneys now. Every threat documented. Garrison called that afternoon. She's filed for emergency hearing. Tomorrow morning. Claims you've locked her out of all accounts. Left her destitute. That's false. She has her personal accounts, her salary, partnership distributions. I know, but she's painting a picture. We need documentation of her access by tonight. Already done. I'll send it within the hour. The next morning, I arrived at the courthouse early. Garrison met me outside with his briefcase. Stay calm. Don't react to anything she says. Eyes on the judge only. The courtroom was wood-paneled, formal. Victoria sat with Brad, looking composed but tense. When our eyes met briefly, hers were full of fury and disbelief. Judge Patricia Hernandez entered. We all stood. Be seated. This is an emergency motion filed by Mrs. Victoria Simmons. Mr. Thompson, you're representing Mrs. Simmons. Brad stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client was served without warning and has discovered her husband systematically locked her out of all marital accounts, leaving her without funds for basic expenses. Garrison stood smoothly. Your Honor, that's inaccurate. Mrs. Simmons has access to her personal account with $42,000, her partnership account, and personal credit cards. Mr. Simmons froze only joint accounts pending division. His client earns over $300,000 annually. She's hardly destitute. Judge Hernandez looked at Victoria. Mrs. Simmons, you have access to personal accounts. Victoria stood. Your Honor, while I have some accounts, my husband has taken control of marital assets accumulated over 23 years. Assets I contributed to building. Mr. Garrison, Your Honor, we have documentation that Mrs. Simmons hid $147,000 in a separate account. Never disclosed. Clear preparation for separation. Our client simply secured his assets upon discovering this. Brad jumped in. That account was for household emergencies. Then why wasn't it on their tax returns? Garrison asked. Judge Hernandez held up her hand. We're not trying the full case today. Mr. Garrison, joint accounts are secured. Temporarily, Your Honor. Given Mrs. Simmons's income, there's no emergency. The judge reviewed documents. Joint accounts remain frozen pending discovery. $5,000 monthly to Mrs. Simmons for expenses. Both parties submit complete financial disclosure within 30 days. Full hearing in 6 weeks. Outside, Victoria caught my arm. How could you do this? 23 years, Daniel. I looked at her hand, then her eyes. You had 3 years to treat me like I mattered. You chose not to. I never planned to leave you. Then explain the $147,000 you've been hiding. Her hand dropped. That was just being smart. No, that was you preparing to leave while letting me believe we had a future. Brad appeared, hand on her shoulder. We need to go. I watched them leave, his hand too familiar on her back. Garrison appeared beside me. That went well. She threatened me. In the hallway. Did you record it? I showed him the voice app running on my phone. Every word. Military intelligence. Your wife picked the wrong opponent. We walked out into Chicago sunshine. Round 1 was over. 2 weeks after the hearing, Jake Patterson sat across from me at a downtown bar, nursing a beer and looking uncomfortable. You really need me to do this? He asked. Put it in writing. I need the truth documented, Jake. What Victoria did at that Christmas party 2 years ago matters. It shows pattern of behavior, shows she was already checked out of the marriage. He nodded slowly. All right, but you know she's going to come at me hard. She'll say I'm lying, that I'm just backing you up because we're friends. Let her try. You're willing to testify under oath, right? Yeah, I am. He took a long drink. I should have told you sooner, man. When it happened, I thought it was just drunk stupidity. But watching how she treated you after that, how cold she got, I realized it wasn't a one-time thing. It was who she'd become. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder. Tell me exactly what happened. Every detail you remember. Jake set down his beer and collected his thoughts. It was December 15th, 2 years ago. Your company holiday party at that hotel downtown. You left around 9 because you had that client emergency, remember? The security breach at the Thompson building. I remember. Victoria stayed. Said she wanted to network, catch up with people. I was at the bar around 11 when she found me. She was drunk, not falling down drunk, but definitely past her limit. Started talking about how you'd changed, how you used to be more fun, more spontaneous. What exactly did she say? She said, Jake, do you remember when Daniel used to laugh? Really laugh. Now he just goes through the motions. Then she got closer, put her hand on my chest, and said, I miss being with someone who actually wants me. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. Then what? She kissed me. Full-on kissed me. I pushed her back immediately, told her she was drunk and needed to go home. She laughed it off, said I was being uptight like you. Then she tried again, said we should get a room, that you'd never know. What did you do? I told her no. Firmly. I said she was married to my best friend, and this wasn't happening. She got angry then, said I was just like you, boring and predictable. She walked away and I left right after. I thought about calling you that night, but I figured she was just drunk and would regret it in the morning. Did she ever mention it again? Never. Next time I saw her, at your barbecue that summer, she acted like nothing happened. Super friendly, asked about my wife, played the perfect hostess. That's when I knew it wasn't just alcohol. She was calculating. She'd tested boundaries, and when I didn't bite, she just moved on like it never occurred. I stopped the recording. I need you to write this down, sign it, get it notarized. Done. When? Tomorrow. Garrison's office. He'll take your formal statement. Jake leaned back, studying me. You're really going to war with her, aren't you? I'm protecting myself from someone who's been planning to destroy me for years. There's a difference. She's going to hate me for this. She's going to hate both of us. But at least we'll be telling the truth. The next day, Jake sat in Garrison's office and gave his formal statement. Every word recorded, transcribed, notarized. Victoria's attempt to seduce my best friend, documented and ready for court. Garrison reviewed it and smiled. This is good. Really good. It establishes she was emotionally unfaithful, that she was actively trying to cheat, and it shows her contempt for the marriage 2 years ago. Combined with the hidden money, it paints a clear picture. When do we use it? Not yet. Let Victoria build her case. Let her claim she's the victim, that you're controlling and cruel. Then, when she's fully committed to that narrative, we bring Jake in, show the judge who really destroyed this marriage. My phone buzzed. Emily, my daughter. We've been texting sporadically since I left. Her message is careful and neutral, trying not to take sides. Dad, can we talk? Mom said some things that don't make sense. I called her immediately. Hey, sweetheart. What did your mother say? She told me you're trying to take everything from her. That you've frozen her out completely, that she can't even buy groceries. But Dad, she makes way more money than most people. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because it's not true. Your mother has access to her own accounts, her salary, everything she needs. I only secured joint accounts until we can properly divide them. She also said you're spreading lies about her, trying to ruin her reputation. I'm not spreading anything, Em. I'm documenting facts. There's a difference. What facts? I hesitated. How much should Emily know? She was 19, an adult, but still our daughter. Your mother has been preparing to leave me for years. She hid money. She pulled away emotionally. She stopped treating me like a partner. When I finally had enough and left, she got angry that I left first. That's what this is really about. Control. She said you have Uncle Jake lying for you. Jake's not lying. He's telling the truth about something that happened 2 years ago. Something your mother did that showed me she was already done with our marriage. What did she do? Ask her, Em. Ask her what happened at the company Christmas party 2 years ago when I left early. See if she tells you the truth. Silence. Then quietly, this is so messed up. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. But I promise you, everything I'm doing is to protect myself, not to hurt your mother. She's just angry that she can't control the narrative anymore. After we hung up, I sat in my new apartment, the one I'd rented under my company name, and felt the weight of it all. My marriage was over. My daughter was confused. My wife was building a war campaign, but I had truth on my side. And in the end, truth was the only weapon that really mattered. 3 weeks into the separation, Garrison called with news. Victoria's financial disclosure came through. You need to see this. I met him at his office within the hour. He spread documents across his conference table, highlighting sections with yellow marker. Remember that hidden account? The $147,000. What about it? It's not the only one. Garrison tapped another document. There's a second account. A separate brokerage account in her name only, opened 6 years ago. Another $83,000. I stare at the numbers. She's been hiding money for 6 years. It gets better. Look at the deposits. Regular monthly contributions, sometimes $2,000 or $3,000 at a time. All from her quarterly bonuses and partnership distributions. Money that should have been reported as marital income. How much total? Combined? $230,000. Hidden across 2 accounts you never knew existed. I sat down heavily. She's been planning this for 6 years. Planning to leave me while I thought we were building a future together. It's worse than that, Garrison said. Look at the timing of the deposits. They increased significantly starting 3 years ago. Right around the time you said things got really cold between you. He was right. The deposits jumped from $1,500 a month to sometimes $5,000. Victoria had been aggressively funding her escape plan while treating me like an inconvenience at home. Can we use this in court? Absolutely. This isn't just hiding assets. This is systematic deception over multiple years. It shows intent, planning, and a complete disregard for marital partnership. Any judge will see this as her preparing for divorce while keeping you in the dark. What about her claim that I'm financially controlling? Garrison laughed. She's claiming you're controlling while she's the one who hit $250,000. That argument falls apart instantly. In fact, this flips the entire narrative. She's the one who was financially deceptive, not you. My phone buzzed. Victoria's attorney, Brad Thompson, requesting a meeting. Garrison looked at it and shook his head. He wants to negotiate. They're seeing the same financial disclosure we are, and they know it looks bad. He's going to try to spin it, maybe offer a quick settlement to avoid it go to trial. I'm not settling. Good. Because we're in a position of strength now. She hid assets. She tried to cheat with your best friend. She's been emotionally abusive for years. We have documentation of everything. She doesn't want this going to trial any more than we do, but for different reasons. What are her reasons? If this goes to trial, all of this becomes public record. Her colleagues, her clients, her professional network, they'll all see that the expert divorce attorney was hiding assets and planning her own divorce for years. It destroys her credibility. She can't be the trusted advisor on divorce if she's been deceiving her own husband. I thought about that. Victoria's entire career was built on her reputation. She was the attorney women hired when they wanted to win, when they wanted to walk away with everything. If word got out that she'd been systematically hiding money and emotionally checking out, her professional image would shatter. So what do? We wait. Let Brad make his offer. Then we counter with something that protects you completely. The house, the cabin, your business, your retirement accounts. She keeps her accounts, her hidden money, and her career. But she doesn't get to rewrite history, and she doesn't get to play victim. She'll never agree to that. Then we go to trial. And we make sure every judge, every attorney, every client in Chicago knows exactly who Victoria Simmons really is. That night, I pulled out my laptop and added another video journal entry. Number 28. Me, sitting in my apartment, explaining the discovery of the second hidden account, what it meant, how it felt to realize my wife had been planning her exit for 6 years. She looked me in the eye every day. I said to the camera, knowing she had $250,000 hidden away. She made me believe we had a future while she was building her escape route. That's not someone who fell out of love. That's someone who's been calculating her exit strategy while using me as a placeholder. I saved the file and closed the laptop. Tomorrow Brad would call with his offer. Tomorrow the real negotiation would begin. But tonight, I finally understood something crucial. I hadn't lost my wife. I'd escaped someone who'd been using me for years while planning to leave all along. And somehow, that truth didn't hurt anymore. It just made me more determined to win. I was having coffee near my new apartment when an unknown number called. Woman's voice, hesitant but determined. Is this Daniel Simmons? Yes. Who's calling? My name is Jennifer Price. I was a client of your wife's 4 years ago. I saw the news about your separation. I need to tell you something about Victoria. We met the next day at a diner in Oak Park, away from downtown where Victoria had connections. Jennifer was late 30s, well-dressed, carrying herself with the confidence of someone who'd rebuilt after disaster. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, ordering coffee with steady hands. "This isn't easy to talk about. What do you want to tell me about Victoria?" Jennifer pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. 4 years ago, she represented me in my divorce. My husband and I had problems, sure, but nothing unfixable. Victoria convinced me otherwise. That's her job, to protect her clients. No. Jennifer's voice hardened. She didn't protect me. She weaponized me. She taught me how to destroy my husband, how to hide money, how to turn our kids against him, how to claim abuse that never happened. She gave me scripts for what to say in court, coached me on how to cry on command. I opened the folder. Emails from Victoria's address, laying out strategies that crossed every ethical line. How to falsify abuse claims. How to hide assets illegally. How to manipulate custody evaluators. Why are you showing me this? Because I destroyed a good man's life following her advice, Jennifer said, her voice breaking slightly. My ex-husband lost his business, his reputation, his relationship with our children. 4 years later, I'm drowning in guilt, and my kids barely speak to me because they figured out I lied. Victoria turned me into a monster. I studied the emails carefully. Each one was more damning than the last. Victoria wasn't just practicing aggressive divorce law. She was coaching clients to commit perjury, to hide assets, to destroy their husbands systematically. "Does your ex-husband know you're here?" "He does. He said if these emails help protect you from what she did to him, then at least some good comes from our nightmare." "Can I keep these?" "They're yours. I have copies." Jennifer met my eyes. "Your wife is good at playing victim, Mr. Simmons. She'll cry in court, make you look like a monster. But she's the one who's been making monsters out of her clients for years. Don't let her win." I spent an hour reviewing every email, every document Jennifer brought. Then I sent everything to Garrison. He called back within 30 minutes. "Daniel, this is explosive. If these are authentic, Victoria could face ethics violations, possibly disbarment. They're authentic." I verified the email headers. The dates match Jennifer's case timeline. "We need to be strategic. If we introduce this too early, Victoria claims they're fabricated. We wait until she's fully committed to her victim narrative. Then we bring Jennifer as a witness." That evening, I had another video journal. Number 29. Me explaining Jennifer's visit, what the emails revealed, what it meant about Victoria's character. "She's not just my wife who stopped loving me," I said to the camera. "She's someone who's been teaching women how to destroy their husbands for years. She coached them to lie, to hide money, to use their children as weapons. And when our marriage failed, she blamed me, made me feel inadequate. But I wasn't a problem. She was." 2 days later, Emily called. Her voice was different, harder. "Dad, I asked Mom about that Christmas party. About Uncle Jake. What did she say?" "She said Jake's lying, that he's making it up to help you." "But Dad," she wouldn't look at me when she said it. She kept changing the subject, getting angry that I'd even ask. "That's not how innocent people act. I'm sorry you had to confront her about that." I also asked about the hidden money. The 2 accounts. She said it was just smart financial planning, that married people should have separate emergency funds. But she never told me about them, Em. That's the point. She hid them. Silence. Then, I think I've been believing her version because it's easier. Because accepting that Mom's been lying for years means our whole family was built on something fake. Not fake, sweetheart. Just broken. People break. Marriages end. That doesn't mean the good years weren't real. Were the good years? I thought about that. Yeah, there were. Before she became who she is now. But the woman I married, the woman who laughed and dreamed and made plans with me, she's been gone for a long time. After we hung up, I sat watching the sunset through my apartment window. Emily was starting to see the truth. That hurt, knowing our daughter had a face who her mother really was. But it was necessary. Tomorrow Garrison would file Jennifer's testimony. Tomorrow the real war would begin. But tonight, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not just peace. Vindication. Proof that my instincts weren't wrong, that the coldness and manipulation weren't my imagination. Victoria had shown me exactly who she was. I'd just been too loyal to believe it until I had no choice. The final hearing was scheduled for a Wednesday morning in late October. 8 months after I'd walked out. 8 months of legal battles, discovery fights, and Victoria's increasingly desperate attempts to control the narrative. Garrison met me outside the courthouse, carrying 2 briefcases. She wants to settle. Brad called this morning. They're willing to negotiate before we go in front of Judge Hernandez. What are they offering? She keeps the house, you keep the cabin and your business. Assets split 50-50. She drops all claims of financial abuse if you drop Jake's testimony and Jennifer's emails. No, I told them you'd say that. So here's our counter. You keep the cabin, your business, your retirement accounts, and the vehicles. She keeps her hidden accounts, all $230,000, her partnership in the firm, and her professional reputation. But she signs a statement admitting the accounts were hidden, and she doesn't contest anything publicly. She'll never agree. Let's find out. We entered the courthouse. Victoria was already there with Brad, looking tired and smaller somehow. 8 months of fighting had worn her down, stripped away the polish. When she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Not anger anymore. Something closer to resignation. Judge Hernandez called us into her chambers for a preliminary discussion. I understand there's a settlement proposal. Garrison laid out her terms. Victoria listened, her face carefully neutral. When he finished, she looked at Brad, who nodded slightly. We'll agree, Victoria said quietly, with one condition. The videos, all 29 of them, stay sealed. They don't become public record. I considered that. The videos were my truth, my documentation of the marriage's collapse. But they were also deeply personal, raw moments of pain and realization. Agreed, I said. But you sign a statement acknowledging the hidden accounts and admitting you never disclosed them during the marriage. Victoria's jaw tightened. That damages my professional reputation. You damaged it yourself when you hid the money. Judge Hernandez intervened. Mrs. Simmons, Mr. Simmons is being generous. Given the evidence, if this goes to trial, the outcome could be far worse for you. The hidden accounts, the attempted infidelity, Ms. Price's testimony about your coaching clients to commit perjury. That's disbarment territory. Victoria's face went pale. Jennifer Price contacted him. With documentation, Garrison said calmly. Emails showing you advised her to falsify abuse claims, hide assets illegally, manipulate custody proceedings. You want that in open court. Silence stretched. Victoria looked at Brad, who gave her a small nod. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. Fine, she said. I'll sign. The paperwork took 3 hours. Lawyers drafting agreements, terms being negotiated, signatures being witnessed. By mid-afternoon, it was done. 23 years of marriage dissolved into legal documents and property divisions. Outside the courthouse, Victoria stopped me. Daniel, don't, I said. We're done. There's nothing left to say. I never meant for it to end like this. You didn't mean for it to end with you losing. That's different. She flinched. I wasn't always like this. I used to love you. Maybe. But you stopped a long time ago, and you didn't have the courage to tell me. You just waited for me to figure it out while you prepared your exit strategy. You pushed me away, she said, voice rising. You were always working, always focused on your business. I felt alone. I was working to build a life for us. And while I did that, you were secretly funding your escape. So don't blame me for your choices, Victoria. You made them. You hid the money. You tried to cheat. You coached clients to destroy their husbands. That's on you. I walked away before she could respond. Garrison was waiting by his car. How do you feel? He asked. Free. Finally free. For months later, I stood in a bookstore in Evanston, looking at a display of new releases. My book, The Silent Exit, When Walking Away Saves Your Life, sat prominently on the featured shelf. A memoir about emotional abuse, strategic departure, and reclaiming dignity. My phone buzzed. Emily, sending a photo of herself holding my book in a London bookstore. Proud of you, Dad. Proud you told your truth. I smiled. The book had been therapeutic to write, laying out the entire story without names, just experiences. How to recognize when marriage is over. How to protect yourself legally. How to document everything. How to leave with dignity. Early reviews were strong. Men reached out thanking me, saying they felt the same coldness, the same dismissal, but thought they were crazy. Women reached out too, saying the book helped them understand their partners better, helped them see warning signs in their own relationships. Victoria had tried to stop publication, claimed it violated their settlement. Garrison shut that down quickly. The book didn't mention her name, didn't identify her specifically. It was my story, my truth, and I had every right to tell it. I heard through mutual friends that she'd left Chicago, taken a position at a firm in Denver, starting over where people didn't know her history. Emily visited her occasionally, maintained a relationship, but it was strained. As for me, I rebuilt. New apartment that became a house. New routines. New peace. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious, just rediscovering what it felt like to be wanted, to be seen. Jake stopped by one evening with beer and pizza. "You good, man?" "Yeah," I said, meaning it. "Better than I've been in years." Victoria reached out to my wife. Asked her to ask me to stop telling people what happened at that party. What did you tell her? That the truth isn't negotiable. She made her choices. She lives with them. We clinked bottles and I looked around my living room. My space. My life. My future. Victoria had taught me a lot over 23 years. How to be patient. How to be loyal. How to hope for the best in people. But walking away from her taught me something more valuable. How to recognize when loyalty becomes self-destruction. How to protect yourself from someone who stopped protecting you. How to leave with dignity when staying meant losing yourself. I didn't regret the marriage, but I didn't regret ending it either. Sometimes the most masculine thing a man can do isn't fighting to save something broken. It's having the strength to walk away and build something better.